Okay, we're live.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the May 20th Northborough Diversity and Inclusion Committee meeting. Becca, do you have the statement from the governor?
Yes. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. This meeting will be live streamed, but will have no option for public participation. To view or listen only, please visit the YouTube link posted on our agenda on the town's website.
Thank you, Becca. Just a quick roll call, just so we're sure everybody's connected and everybody can be heard and hear. Sheikha Holland.
Present.
Lauren Bailey Jones.
Present.
Miriam Ibrahimi.
Present.
Becca Meekins.
Present.
Virginia George.
Present.
And Hamilton Soriano.
Present.
Well, it's good to see everybody. Everybody survived the election. It's good to see everybody. Just want to give a big round of applause to Miriam for running such an outstanding campaign. You are a superstar in the making. I was. It's tough for me to say I was very proud of you because it sounds, I don't know, parental in a way, but I was very proud of the way you conducted yourself. It was a nice beam of sunshine on an otherwise cloudy day. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I was happy to do it. I had a lot of fun doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Back.
Yes, I hope you are. I hope you are. I hope you're not. It was. I hope you're not discouraged. It would be unfortunate for the community for you not to be involved in any way that you would like. So, so we just need to first approve the minutes from our last meeting. Did anybody have any questions or feedback on the minutes? No. Okay. Can I just need a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Seconded.
So moved by Sheikha and seconded by Miriam. There's a roll call vote. Sheikha Holland.
Aye.
Lauren Jones.
Aye.
Miriam Ibrahimi.
Aye.
Becca Meekins.
Aye.
Virginia George.
I abstain.
Hamilton Soriano.
Aye.
And Tim Kalin, and I also vote aye. Minutes are approved. That takes care of that. I'm just going to pull up the agenda. Okay. So the first thing on our agenda is to review some of the survey results. So I am going to share my screen, and I'll be honest with everybody. I don't know how this is going to come across over Zoom. So just let me know if you have any difficulties reading it, or I'll walk everybody through what we're looking at.
Sorry, I'm late. Did I miss anything?
No, we made a bunch of jokes at behind your back, but besides that.
I didn't miss anything then. Okay, good.
No, unless you have any feedback on the minutes. That was the.
Nope, they're perfect.
All right. So can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So what I did was I broke, I played around with the data that we got from the survey and just reformatted the information so that we can get some information from it. So I don't know if everybody, up in the right-hand corner, up here where it says responses, you can see the color codes. So strongly agree, agreed, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree for the colors in here. And then on the top, this section, we can break it down by individual race. And then this bottom section is the entirety of the survey with all the responses. So then in here we have the questions. I had to shorten those so that the questions would fit and they would make sense. In here is the average response for each question. So we basically had a scale of 1 to 5. So from strongly agree to strongly disagree, it's basically 1 through 5. So right here, welcomed at activities and events, the average response for every Black or African American person that took the survey was 2.25, which puts that somewhere between agree and the neutral response. And then I added a standard deviation, which just shows the spread of responses. And it helps for a comparison, like especially if you look down here at this last one, the average response was 2.94, but the standard deviation was 1.8. And that's because there were so many answers in the strongly disagree. So there's a wide range of answers in there. And then the same goes down here for the entire community, not broken down by anything. And I thought this was helpful because now we can look at individual races and how their responses compare to the total response. So you can see here activities and events for Black or African Americans that answered that way. Their average response is 2.25. Overall, the average response was 2.01. So you get some idea of the differences in the responses. And when you go through and look at all of them, there isn't a huge amount of difference in the responses, in the average response rates. Most of the questions answered the same way. And you can break it down so you can look at individual questions. So like this one, strong leadership, support of diversity and inclusion, 2.8, 2.88. This one has a bigger standard deviation, but you can see the green, which are the good answers. This total is about 37%, and this total is about 32%. So there isn't all that much difference in many of the different categories, which was it's good and it was a bit surprising. So you compare the people who answered as Asian, and you can compare their results and see where the differences there lie. And their standard deviations were much lower. And one of the challenges is we had 349 people take the survey and check off white. We had 16 people check off Black or African American. We had 20 people check off Asian. So the data sets for individual races got real small real quick. So that can skew the data a bit, but overall, you get a good picture that generally all of the average responses lie almost right smack in the middle when you go through every different race for every different answer. So what does that tell us? What can we take from that? To me, when I see that, I think, let me just show you one other. And in this one, we can compare races, so Asian to white. So white, the people that chose white as their answer, their standard deviations were much tighter, so their answers were relatively close together, and they were all under, except for strong leadership, under 2.5, which means they were on the strongly agree to agree side. The people that selected Asian were again right around there. When you look at Black or African Americans, again, right around that 2.5 point. So what I take from this is, I think that people don't quite, I don't want to say understand, but they are, I think education and programs would be very helpful. I think people need to be more aware of the world outside of Northborough. Because I think if you were to take the survey and put it on even a more, like if you were to conduct the survey in Worcester, I think the results would be vastly different. I think a lot of this is just driven by the majority, the large majority of people that took the survey classifying themselves as white. So that skews the responses quite a bit. And just not enough people of color took the survey to get some real in-depth data that we could dig into. Anybody have any questions? Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense. I have a question. I'm sorry. Can you repeat, Tim, how the amount of people in the different race categories that responded?
Yeah, I'll show you. So this is, can you see?
My screen didn't change. Where are you?
Oh, sorry. So we had 27 Asian, 16 Black or African American, 20 Hispanic or Latino, 6 Middle Eastern or North African, 9 racial or multi-ethnic, 3 Native American or Alaska Native, 1 Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, 349 white, 13 another race, and 55 prefer not to answer.
Would you say that those kind of end up being fairly similar to the way our demographic kind of ends up in Northborough, percentage-wise?
I bet you it's pretty close. I did think of that. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but that is something that I am going to look at. But I bet you that it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah. But clearly.
Tim, I missed the meeting on the 20th when you first presented it. So when Becca sent the information out, I read, the survey and the answers. And the first thing that struck me was education needs to be a forefront,
Mhm.
because I just felt that reading the comments and everything, there's a lot of opportunity for us to educate the community.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree with Virginia. I think that the data here like underscores that, but I got that feeling just from reading the verbatims from what folks put in the open fields. Even, some areas where folks felt like maybe they were in a minority, though they likely aren't in a minority, even based on just like political views and things like that. It was just sort of interesting to read where folks were coming from. And so I think, we can definitely look into how we can better educate. And I think that, this survey it's a baseline for us, I would say at this point, right? It's a little less of, I don't know if this is what you meant by it, Tim, but I heard you say something like the data is kind of skewed, but I think it's showing the current state, right? And now we just need to figure out, like, how do we move the needle with some of the recommendations that we look to put forward to the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah, I agree with that.
totally agree. Totally agree.
But and to your point, Chica, I think using this as a baseline to go back and review as we start introducing different things, I wouldn't be surprised that if we started conducting programs and making people aware of things, that the second time or the third time that we conduct a survey like this, that it's worse or much worse, just because people will be aware of things that they're just not aware of now.
Yeah,
Will get better.
yeah. I think you're right.
So, so there's some other things that I'm going to play around with the data to see if there's any other information that I can extract from it.
Before you move on, can you, that last question, the town addresses, that 37.5% under the Black or African American category, that last question, what is that full question? Oh, the town addresses diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, to me, that's pretty stark.
Yeah,
that our Black and African American respondents, though a small sample size, feel that way. I think that's something that we need to recognize. And like Shika was saying, what recommendations can we make that is going to sort of shift the feelings in town?
Mhm.
Could you also click on 2 up from there? What my background?
Oh, that was the question about, I feel free to share experiences about my background and culture.
Okay. And that's, a third of respondents don't feel that way. And that's alarming to me as well. So I think, and I'm putting on my community engagement hat as Miriam, Deidre, and I have been working on that and already starting to think, okay, how can Northborough change and be more inclusive to include more backgrounds? So that's sort of just the hat and the lens that I'm sort of looking through this. Thank you, Tim.
So-
That was really helpful.
So one of the things that, in just reading the questions and reading some of the responses, I remember two for people. I thought the moms group was inclusive group and anything, but I was surprised by, it's not a lot, but there was some feeling of exclusiveness or not being welcome in that group. And I
Mhm.
think that might be great information for the group themselves, because I thought they were focused on trying to have unity and support and all of that. So maybe one of the things, as we look at information, we began to outbrief, we can share some information with different organizations so that they can look at their programs.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, there was um there was a few comments in there about the mothers group that now that you mentioned it, Virginia, I remember reading those.
Tim, do you by any chance have those comments available? I don't remember them, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't have them here, but I can get them. You know what? One of the things I'm going to do, and I'll show it next time we get together. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine all the I'm going to have all the non-white groups and combine all those into one. So maybe that, just to increase the number of responses for that. So we'll have like white and then like BIPOC for the other. And then we'll have two groups, and I'll see if that makes a difference.
I have to say, Tim, your analytics training really pays off with this. This is a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
It was very impressive, Tim.
Hmm.
And clearly you put a ton of time into this, and I so appreciate all of your time.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
We all, that's well spoken, Mary. I support that comment.
Mary, I was just going to mention that Becca did send all of those survey results to us in a PDF. So if you wanted to take a peek just on your own, we have them in our email.
You're right. Thank you, Shika.
Yeah, no problem.
Just to add to what you guys were talking about, as you guys mentioned, the survey is a baseline for us to kind of understand how people are responding to the results or how people have responded, and to just look at the results. However, I don't think it was supposed to, shock us how many people responded or how people responded. I'm honestly relative to what I thought people would say. I do think that for me, I look at it and I think, how can we work towards outreach and, reaching out to those pockets of diverse people in our community? Because I do think there are a lot of people who are not engaged with what's happening in the community, are not engaged on Facebook groups or, what events are happening. And they obviously didn't know that some people didn't know that the survey, was out there. And I think, how can we work towards bring those people into the conversation? Those are my thoughts.
Yep. That's a very important point that should be at the forefront when we talk with the board. It's engagement in making those people feel, or making everybody feel, that they can be part of the conversation. Okay. Any other questions? Is there anything else, or are there any other questions about this, these charts?
One thing I was thinking with these charts is maybe taking out the neutral piece of it. does that sound something that might have a base to it? Just because a lot of these ones in these two groups sound, they're just so big. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking like you decide whether you agree or don't agree, right?
Yeah, I thought of the same thing, and
Like
But-
the strong leadership one here for Hispanic and Latino, 40% people just decided. The way I kind of look at it is when you stay neutral, I'm not going to answer it.
right, and that's exactly how I looked at it. It's
Mm,
I compare it to an I don't know answer.
mhm.
Like if people are just neutral, it's, you know, they don't have a strong feeling one way or another, and to me it's an I don't know type of answer, and I do think that's very the size of the neutral answers, I think, is very telling that some people just don't know.
Hmm.
Just need to be introduced to the discussion in what it means for Northborough going forward.
So Tim, one question I had, and I don't know if it makes sense, when I saw the breakdown, it looks like because the survey was on the website and open to everyone, there's like 100 people who are not Northborough residents. Would it make a difference if you extracted those people from the results just to take a look at Northborough, pure Northborough?
Well, when people were taking the survey, if the first question was, do you live in Northborough, yes or no? If they clicked no, it just went to the end of the survey. They didn't get the opportunity to answer any of the questions.
Okay.
So
So then the numbers then for the survey responses then would be in the 600. Because those 100, okay, super, thank you.
yeah,
Would you send this out, the graphics that you just did, please?
yeah, I'll put them in a PDF and share them.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Is there anything other, or is there anything else that people can think of that they would like to see from the survey data? Any questions that you would like tried, answered, or any other way to look at the information that you think may be helpful? Okay. I'll play around with some other presentations in chart types. See if it helps pop the data a little bit more. And then I'll bring those up. Maybe not next time, but the meeting after, because next meeting we have people coming in. So the following meeting after that. Cool. All right. Next on the agenda is just a quick intro to the 21-day challenge. Becca shared that link in the email with the agenda. I had a chance. Debbie Irving. Did everybody get a chance to look at that?
No, I'm not sure. I don't remember it coming out. I might have missed it.
There's a link in the email that Becca sent.
Ah, okay. I only went to one of the links she sent, so I didn't look at hers.
Okay. If you get a chance, just take a look at it. I think it's so Debbie Irvin is she's been working in the DE&I space for 15 years, maybe 20 years. She wrote a book called Waking Up White. So I had a chance to speak with her in the last couple weeks, and she just introduced this 21-day challenge within the last, I don't know, like 6 months or so. And I went through it with her, and I think it's an excellent tool that we could use, because it's free, which is great. It fits in with our budget. But it's also a tool that we can share with people that want to begin their own personal journey or personal learnings into diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this 21-day challenge just gives people a very simple template or workflow that they can follow, just to educate themselves. And I thought it would be a great resource for us to be able to pass on to people. And then, if people on the committee have the time to also do it themselves. It's not, and there's nothing on there that's huge heavy lifting, but there is some great ways for people to get to know the topic.
I think that sounds amazing. I didn't have a chance to open the link, Becca. Thank you for sending it, but I think that the program sounds fabulous for us to use and for others to use, and love that it's free.
Yeah. So when you go into each, she has various different, like reading, music, arts, those, but when you go into each separate, why can't I think of the right word? Group. Underneath, I think she provides resources that you can look at if you don't know where to go yourself. It gives, what you can read and links and those sorts of things. So overall, it's a great resource, and she's fantastic. I just wanted to share. Bless you,
Tim,
Mary.
is it possible she could speak to us or something?
I can certainly ask her to.
I think it all sounds just absolutely wonderful, but it could maybe be we're bringing in people, so maybe she could come and just talk with us during our meeting.
Yeah, I can ask her. One of the challenges right now is diversity, equity, and inclusion professionals are so overworked right now.
Yes.
So like when I talk with Debbie, she has taken a much needed vacation for a while. So I like it. So when that's just what I deal with it on a day-to-day basis in my work, is just how stretched. There's just not enough people in the field to educate and help all the various organizations that need to work through it.
So one of my fears is that this is like the favor, the what do you call it, flavor of the month, because many companies are hiring D&I people, towns are developing D&I leaders and committees and everything like that. I just hope that it's lasting and effective.
Yeah, and I think that is a conversation that I've had with quite a few people, and it's a very deep conversation. I think a lot of the feedback that I've been getting from people is the difference today is that there are so many people behind the movement and behind the push for change than there has been in the past. And that's, I don't have the personal experience to say that, like, I've seen that, but it's just feedback that I've gotten from other people when we've had that same conversation, Virginia.
I'll also add to that, though, that today is a more diverse group. In
Right.
the past, it was not. It was, it may have been just people of color, but now it's a blended because so many people, I think, understand, see, and are involved. So it's very different today. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I'm very hopeful that it's not a fad.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
So going back to the idea of the 21-day challenge, I was really thinking about, how this is a great resource, and it's something that everyone can do. All the resources are right on that website, depending upon what challenge you want to do. And I know we've talked a little bit about social media, and not everyone lives on social media, but a lot of people do. And so I'm wondering what the feasibility of having a Facebook group for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee is. I know like the Community Affairs group, they have a Facebook account, and it's really helpful because they post their events and what's going on. So I don't know if anyone else has thought about this idea and maybe appointing someone from our committee to lead that charge, so that we can be a voice with people, not just people who choose to tune into these meetings, but also on social media.
Yeah, I totally agree, Lauren. I think at the end of our last meeting, I was kind of alluding to the fact that we need to have some way to get our messaging out there. And, social media is a good way, easier way, and within our budget-free way for us to be able to get that message out without having to depend on other folks, kind of push that forward for us. And then I think that also speaks to what Virginia was just saying. We don't want this all to kind of fizzle away, right? So the more that we can have that presence and use this already created content with the 21-day challenge, like we can feature ourselves kind of going through and things that we're doing throughout the challenge. Like there's a lot of good opportunity there. So I'm totally with you. I know that's obviously another thing that needs to happen and someone would have to manage and we'd have to figure that out. But I think it's the right thing for us to do, even if we're really intentional about only posting at certain times based on everyone's schedules. I think it's something we should talk about more and see if everybody else feels the same way.
Yeah, I agree. Becca, is there any reason why we can't?
Yeah.
Or I not to put you on the spot, if you have time, if you could look into that, if there's any reason why we can't.
So I will say, and this isn't a negative, I don't know Facebook and I don't do Facebook. And there is a group that, don't do Facebook and a group that does. So I think we need to think maybe Facebook plus what kind of comment. I don't, I'm not opposed against it. I just don't do it. And I know others who don't do it. So if we could come up with a couple of options, I think it would be good.
Agree.
Virginia, do you think that people who don't use Facebook but are still looking for information would find the town website a helpful place?
Sure. Yeah. The town website, I think, is where most people go when they're looking for something, but I'm just not, I don't, first of all, I don't know Facebook, so I can't speak to it, but sometimes I think it's good that I don't because of some of the messages that I've heard that, that people see. And one of the things Fred and I try to stay neutral because he, as the town moderator, really, stays neutral. And I try to be supportive of him. So I don't do, look at Facebook and I don't hear all the chatter. And that's the only reason for me personally.
I can't begin to tell you how jealous I am of you right now.
Another way to look at it, maybe I'm just old, okay?
No, stay away from Facebook, causes a lot more headache than needed.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that. That's why I haven't done it, okay?
That's a fair point. Having some other ways to connect with people
Yeah.
outside of social media. That's
Yes.
fair. I don't know what those are right now, but totally hear you.
Yeah, like one thing,
But they-
Virginia, that came to mind was the the community news that the senior center puts out.
Yeah.
You know, the monthly magazine that they send out, you know, if there's something that we can put in there. I'm sure there's other resources like that we can come up with. But you know, I think the lowest hanging fruit right now is social media in doing something there. And I love the idea of sharing our journey through the challenges. Like if we all were to take one and just, you know, write something, post something, a quick video, something along those lines, I think that would be tremendous. So it just.
So I have a question. I think, Lauren, I like your idea, but what I'm wondering, would it make sense maybe if we said, okay, maybe between now and June, July 1st or something like that, maybe we as a team sort of look at it and see what it's about, and then maybe do some sharing outside, you know, social media, in the newspaper or town website or something like that, sort of put a short, quick strategy together.
Yeah, I think having a strategy, I think is going to be important so that we know what our focus is for this potential Facebook group. There's a plan, right? We don't just do it. Yeah.
So we know where we're going. We know to how we got there. We can evaluate and then we can move forward.
Chica, with your marketing background, would you be willing to help out with that?
I am happy to help. As you and I think Becca know, I'm going to be on a short sabbatical.
Yes.
Yes, but for the rest of the team, and Mary knows too, I'm actually expecting and probably will have a baby around this time next week. So
Ooh.
yeah, very, very soon. So we're really excited about all of that, but also that, you know, causes challenges.
Yes.
Good ones, but challenges. So let me
Chica, priorities.
Yeah,
Priorities.
I know. Exactly. But I can connect with, you know, maybe I can partner with someone on the group and, you know, we can kind of talk about what that looks like. And Lauren, I don't know, I know you brought it up. I don't know if that meant you wanted to be involved necessarily, but can try to reconnect and figure out how we get that off the ground.
I can also be a support to you in that sense.
Oh, beautiful.
I know the social media platforms quite a bit, so for something of that sort, I definitely support you on that.
Okay, awesome.
Mm.
Okay, we'll connect offline.
It's good.
Okay. And then Becca, if there's any reason why we can't.
There's no reason why we can't. My experience with Facebook as a tool to communicate in a public sector forum is that if you are not posting often, it's going to die on the vine. So just keep that in mind, that if we open it up and commit to it, you know, it's going to take work from, I'm happy that multiple people are willing to pitch in. I just don't want to create a page that we post 2 things on and then just sort of fades into the night. The only other concern that I have that I will check in on is just keeping the board in the loop. You know, we are an ad hoc committee of the Board of Selectmen with a specific charge. I know we're due to talk to them very soon. So if we were thinking seriously about it, I would want to let them know so that it, you know, wasn't a surprise to them, and just make sure that they didn't have any concerns. I mean, on the face of it, I think it's the reality that we live in. You know, social media is probably our best tool to communicate and inform and educate. But yeah, I just think we can do some planning on the back end and get something rolling.
Okay. Or we just hire Miriam's campaign team. All right. All right. So any other questions on that? Okay. Next up, updates on medium and long-term objectives. I know that you guys have been working on the community engagement piece. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. We worked a little bit on the community engagement piece. Lauren sent an email out with the document we've been working on. If one of you wants to share that. Or I can share it.
You guys want to share your screen? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, you can share. I mean, I know you have it, or I can share it. Either's fine.
Yeah, I do have it.
I have it. I have it up.
Oh, okay. Then you can share.
Okay, so we sort of just discussed some of the background of what already exists in Northborough for community engagement, and then we, as you can see on the other line, we have recommendations. So in terms of events, you know, we have the Community Affairs Committee with Susie Suslika in it, and so there's Munchie Madness in March, Town Cleanup in April, the concert series in July and August. There's a jack-o'-lantern stroll in October, tree lighting ceremony in December, etc. Some of our recommendations obviously include having inclusive events that bring in other cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, and demographics, and that, you know, goes throughout the entire year. It could include Chinese New Year, Ramadan, Juneteenth, Pride Month, Diwali, Holi, etc. Those are just, you know, some ideas that we had. It's not exclusive. And then a big part of something that we discussed was the Lyceum. This has been, so the Lyceum historically has been a community gathering of sorts for education. And historically in Northborough, Frederick Douglass has come to speak in the Lyceum. And it's really just a place for people to gather with the community and have discussions on important topics, or can even be something fun and lighthearted. And so one of our recommendations is to support for the Board of Selectmen to support the creation of the Lyceum group. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is spearheaded by the governing body, if that makes sense. It can be a community-led like thing, but with the support of our committee and the Board of Selectmen, it can be something that we move forward with. Currently, it's been talked about a lot in the Coalition for Equity, and I've been to one of the meetings with the subcommittee of the Coalition for Equity that is for, I think it's for community engagement, I'm not sure, but they talked about the Lyceum, and the superintendent, Greg, has really been looking for partnership with us and the rest of the community. You know, it shouldn't just be a school-led thing, it should be a community-led thing that partners in with the school as well. So that is something that we have as a recommendation. And then, so then the next point is communication, and that's something that we've talked about, you know, having a partnership with the school, with the town, with our committee and the Board of Selectmen, to have a way to create statements that are universal. And that doesn't just have to be after something happens, excuse me, reactionary, but rather something, you know, for example, Pride Month is coming, and we come out with a statement in support. We come out with something talking about it. And so we have members of the community, so we can have a D&I member, we can have a town official, somebody from the central office in the school district, somebody from the Coalition for Equity, and somebody from the school committee. Again, not an exclusive list, that's just some ideas we add. And then for data collection, we talked about the Diversity Inclusion Committee survey. that came out and that was sent out in February that collected data. And then we obviously recommend that the town of Northborough have focus groups to follow up with the data and survey results that we have and the Coalition for Equity has, or the school district has, so that we can really evaluate how best we can serve the community and move forward with what we've been tasked with. And so we were discussing about focus groups. And I know that's something we've gone back and forth on, but we really felt that if possible, it's something that we could do sooner rather than later. Instead of like making it a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, if that's something that we could do throughout our time in the next couple of months that we have, that's something that we'd like to discuss with the rest of you guys and kind of have a discussion about that. Oh, and the other page is kind of just action items that we all have talked about kind of we want to look into other communities and what they're doing. And we realize we have some connections with the D&I committees in Shrewsbury and Westboro. And so, and Southborough is like looking to make one. So that's something that we talked about divvying up and reaching out to those communities and talking about what they've been looking into and getting some of their perspective as well.
Okay, this is tremendous. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thanks to Lauren, who did wrote out all of this stuff, by the way.
It was a group effort.
Yeah, great job, Lauren and Miriam. Really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree with looking at other communities, Westboro in particular. They are doing a tremendous job in terms of, just bringing different awareness to their community. And they have a group, We Care. It like stands for Westboro, and then the CARE is an acronym. But they're even just doing through their library a Zoom watch party of sorts of a movie called Am I Racist, I believe, and that's going to be airing, I think, June 7th or something. And then they're going to have the actual director kind of join into the Zoom call and like have a dialogue. So they're doing some really interesting things that I think we could pull through on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come up with like a fun name to your Facebook page, to our Facebook page, something other than Northborough D&I. Like, I don't know. We are one Northborough or one Northborough or something. I don't know. Just
Similar, Southborough has they don't have a D&I committee, but they have a group called Neighbors for Peace. I think that's what it's called. And then Shrewsbury has, again, it's not connected to I don't think it's connected to their D&I committee, but it's an organization called A Better Shrewsbury. And some of the members of the D&I committee, their D&I committee, are obviously involved in it. And I've seen a lot of work that they've done through the library and events that they've had. That's been really interesting to follow. I'm a part of that Facebook group just to, keep connected with the rest of the communities around us and see what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking with the people from the library, because I think there's a lot of really cool things that we can do through the library, and also with the community affairs. I think that both of those groups and organizations can play a big part in delivering and being part of this. So it's.
Do we have
Tim, in the day?
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
I was just going to say, Tim, in the day and committee members in the day, the Community Affairs Committee partnered with the library and ran seminars and, trainings and things like that. So it has been done and really worked very, very well. We ran things like on Saturdays and sometimes at night, and tried to bring differences, because like for Black History Month, we brought in a poet, we had an artist, and just many different things. I used to serve on the Community Affairs Committee, so we did that. We also got a cultural grant to be able to do some of those things. So once, as we move forward, tying into the Community Affairs Committee, the library, and a grant will help us to be able to fund some programs if we put them together. Just a thought.
Mhm.
I believe Community Affairs is on our agenda for, is it next month to join us?
Next meeting, yep.
Okay, and is the library also on an upcoming agenda?
They were not paired together initially. I think it's historic that's coming in with community affairs. The library is the first meeting in July. The library is scheduled. So
Okay, thank you.
The historic district will be great, or the historic committee will be great too, because I think that's,
Yeah.
when you look at some of the history of the town, there's like Frederick Douglass coming to speak is just something that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And I think there's a lot of really cool things that have happened in the history of Northborough that would be interesting for residents and to dig into.
So one of the things is not Northborough, but in Shrewsbury, the funeral home, if you go straight down 20, the funeral home on the corner, sort of like to the right and everything like that, that was an underground railroad. And you can actually go and tour because in the basement, slaves were transferring from the South here. And they were over at that, they've been in that funeral. I haven't been there, but the previous Board of Selectmen guy knows the manager and everything over there. So that could be an outing for a school, for an example, to learn history because it's relatively close, you know. But just when we start talking about training, there are lots of opportunities and challenges that I think we can bring forward and put out in the community to help educate the community, because I don't know how many people knew that that was happening so close to our neighborhood.
Right. Agreed. Yep. Okay. Any other updates or discussion on?
I did have one thing to also bring up. So last meeting, we had talked a little bit about welcoming new residents to town and if there's a current process. And Virginia, you brought up the packet that you had seen at Applefest before. So, and I think it was Liz Nolan who was viewing, said, oh, that's the Northborough Guide. So I was actually in touch with the Northborough Guide about something else. And so the person who runs it, Marilee Borden, she reached out to me. She's like, hey, I heard the Northborough Guide came up at your recent meeting. Do you want to touch base? So we were able to touch base. And she told me a little bit about the history of the Northborough Guide and their focus, which is mostly business focus. And she said, you know, she's happy to help in any way. The guide that they have that's in print includes clubs and organizations that you can get involved with. So we discussed the potential for increasing that number of organizations that's listed. I'm sure there's more organizations that could be more inclusive and diverse that could be listed. And she mentioned, you know, basically, however we think that we can use the Northborough Guide to help welcome residents, just let her know. So that was really nice to see that we could have that partnership.
Actually, did she give you one? Because I have one. I think those are, she passed them out at Applefest, not this year, a year ago. Is that what you're referring to, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, exactly.
I do have one, and I don't know, I can get it and we can circulate it if you like to see it.
Yeah, I got a good look at hers, but I think it would be great if other members, if they're not familiar with it, could take a look. It's a great way for, I think, new residents in town to see the different businesses and opportunities there are in town. And she also said that her website could also be a place where there could be a tab for new residents. and information, and, you know, potentially even linking that to the town website as a resource. So that was really great that she reached out, and she's willing to help in any way that we can imagine.
So
So
Lauren,
that Liz Nolan is something else.
you might be watching tonight. So Lauren, is that guide sent out to residents that are new to the community, or is it just something that we've had at the town hall? I mean, obviously, you know, it's distributed at Applefest, but
That's actually a great question. From our conversation, it didn't seem like there was any, you know, delivery to new residents. So that would be like a new idea if we wanted to move forward with that. I know.
Lauren, do you know, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just curious. So Mary, did you say about 200 households last year moved to Northborough? Okay, so yeah, we would need to consider, you know,
that's purchased a home in Northborough. So that does not include anybody that didn't go through MLS.
I see.
Small number of rentals, but probably a little bit bigger than 200.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Becca.
I was just gonna ask you, is there an electronic version of this guide out there somewhere?
Yes,
Yes. Okay. How can we see it? Is it like live somewhere, or like
There's-
she has it?
there's a website.
Okay.
And then the great thing is you can actually sign up for the Northborough Guide emails. And so once a week, you get an email that has updates on events happening in town, you know, businesses that are having sales, etc. So I think if you just look up Northborough Northborough Guide, you should find the website. Oh yeah, it's just northboroughguide.com. There it is.
And they update, it looks like it's updated regularly. Yeah.
Yep. A newsletter goes out every week. It's primarily it's run by Marilee, and Liz Nolan is a writer as well. So shout out to Liz if she's watching. So I mean, and I did tell Marilee when I met with her that, you know, as a new resident to Northborough about 4 years ago, not really knowing anyone here, not being a mom, so didn't really have, you know, like those connections with anyone. I signed up for the Northborough Guide, and I don't even remember how I found it, but I did. And I just felt so much more connected to the community, getting those weekly emails and be like, oh, hey, we can go here this weekend. This is a cool thing to do. Or, hey, did you know about this business? So it's a great resource.
All right, I'm sure there's a way that we can come up with to include that in some manner and use it as a resource for getting some information about some of the things that we want to do out to the world too. So
I also talked to the Junior Women's Club because I know at least I had brought them up as I had them in my head for some reason as having some welcoming committee. So I guess a while back, they did have a representative who served on, I believe, the Welcome Wagon, which probably hasn't existed for a while. But they said that they don't do anything formal to welcome new residents to town. But if we can think of a way to include them, they would be happy to partner as well. So they're a great resource too.
Is Amy Graham still with them?
I don't know.
No?
I spoke to
Okay.
someone named Mary.
Okay, Mary, okay,
Was it Mary? Yes, Mary.
okay. All good information. Thank you, Lauren.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
all right, anything else on?
Do we want to touch on focus groups tonight, or do you guys? It sounded like there was some question about whether or not we were going to pursue that in this round, or if we were in this round, in this cycle, however, or if we were going to sort of punt and see what happened after we made our recommendations. I don't know. I was always under the impression that we were gonna pursue it. I thought that was sort of like round two after the survey, but I know that the timeline is getting getting tight. So I'm curious to hear what other people think.
I think that they should be done, but to your point, Becca, the timeline is getting rather tight.
So I know Deirdre is not here, but Miriam and I were able to speak to her when we were talking about community engagement, when we were talking about this. So Deirdre does have a friend who runs trainings to train people like us who want to run their own focus groups. So she said, you know, that could be a potential avenue. She does not know of his schedule or anything like that, but it is a potential avenue. And, you know, we would have to think about, would we want to be the facilitators, or would we want to hire someone or some group from the outside to then run the focus groups for us? So that was, I know that's something that Deirdre said yesterday. Miriam, correct me if I'm wrong. Does that sound accurate?
She did mention him. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we talked about a couple meetings back. She talked about reaching out to this friend and that he'd be willing to do it for us.
Yeah, so the guy's name is Dr. William Lewis. He runs a course called Brave Conversations. I've taken it. I'm actually my last course. It's a 7-week course. My last class day is Friday, so I'll be done and can facilitate those types of conversations. So between Deidre and I know Deidre has taken the same course. Both her and I can conduct focus groups around these topics. And Deidre and I also had some conversations about having Dr. Lewis come speak to us. One of the challenges is the open meeting aspect of our committee. That kind of throws an unusual curveball into things, because if he comes in and works with us, he's got to work with us on Zoom that's accessible to everybody. So that may or may not work. But he may be open to coming in and just generally speaking with us and answering questions and just giving some general guidance. But the courses, the training has been tremendous. So it's been.
But we couldn't, Tim, we could not have a closed meeting before our meeting for half an hour or an hour to do professional development. We cannot?
No.
Okay.
No.
However, I'm trying to think of like a training I did with school committee. Of course, this is pre-COVID. You know, you do still have to post it. But if
Yeah.
you're meeting in person, which after June 15th, it looks like, you know, the emergency order will be lifted, and the town of North Row does not allow Zoom calls, actually. So it looks like we'll be in person unless something changes with that law. But, you know, the chances of someone actually showing up to an open meeting to sit through a training is pretty slim. We had one for school committee a few years back, and, you know, anyone could have come and sat through our training with us, but they didn't. So that's also something to consider as well.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's just an additional variable that we have to deal with when we have the conversations with Will about possibly coming and speaking with us. So. Okay. So next on the agenda is on July 19th, this committee making a presentation to the Board of Selectmen to give them an update on where things are at with our committee and just give them some updates on ideas, information. I don't think it needs to be anything overly formal. I think the document that you guys put together tonight for the community engagement piece, just working on and continuing to build that out a little bit will be a great place to start. The survey data, sharing some of that information with them. If we choose to go down the social media path, talking with them about that. And then if we have any recommendations that we know we're going to make, I don't think it would be a bad idea to give them a heads up on some of the things that we are leaning towards or are 90% going to recommend. And one I can think of is making this a permanent committee in the town. So I don't, Becca, unless you have, and we don't have to just talk about the details of it now, but if you have any pushback on making, like, these are some of the final recommendations that we're heavily leaning towards now, just so you guys have a heads up of where the committee's at, so you guys can, begin your process, like the permanency of this committee, and some of the things that we're
So
listening.
I'm sorry, if we did that, Becca, will we not have to come up with our, bylaws or operating guides and things like that? To make us a permanent committee?
No, we would need to have like a charge or a scope, essentially, that would sort of guide us. And then, they need to solidify the makeup of the committee. If they wanted to keep it the same as it is now or change it, or if we felt like it should be changed, that would be a good opportunity for us to give some input if we feel like there's a voice that's missing, or something like that. But there's no, all committees are subject to the same charter and bylaws. There's no difference there.
So then we could have us appointed for 3 years and then we'd be able to re-up if we were still interested and yada, yada, yada. Okay.
Yep.
I think that's
Yep.
a great idea.
Would it make sense to work on this? July 5th is going to be rough for me. I'm on vacation that week, but like 2 weeks before or 4 weeks before, put a draft together so that we work together on that, or?
Yeah, I've actually got some notes put together already for kind of an agenda for what we want to present to them. What I was thinking was survey data, long and short term, any information that we have on that, the community engagement, people that we've had conversations with, we met with Chief Liver, we met with Chief Parenti, we had, Superintendent Martineau and Rhoda in, the other people that we're going to have in, we've spoken to the Y, and just some of the high level takeaways that we've had from those meetings. One theme that I think we've heard consistently from everybody is
Hiring.
Everybody is open and wants to improve the makeup of their departments. It's just everybody's hitting a roadblock with finding people to fill the roles, and the roadblocks are for different reasons. And I think those will be part of the recommendations on how we can maybe get around some of those. The police chief or for the police department expanding, and the fire department expanding the distance for which people can live away from the fire station. Instead of it being 15 miles, have it based on time instead of mileage. You know, you have to live with an hour radius or something like that. Police chief, when we talked with the police chief Liver, tattoos was one that came up that it was funny. I was driving through Marlboro the other day, and they're doing construction downtown Marlboro, and there was 4 officers doing police detail, and 3 of them had full or at least half sleeves. You know, their forearms were completely tattooed. So it's not something that's not seen in other communities. So when I was thinking through those are some of the notes I have for the presentation for the board of selectmen. These are the things that we've done. You know, the other piece for everybody to think about too is if anybody wants to present to the board, like feel free to volunteer, or, you know, if you like, if Lauren and Miriam and you guys want to take on the community engagement piece and you want to present that piece, like just we can talk that through. You know,
How much time will we have, Tim?
I don't know yet. I will get that information from the chair. I think it's probably going to be dependent. Usually during the summer months, it's pretty slow. So I don't think we'll have unlimited time, but I think we'll have enough time
Okay,
to present, make our presentation. So,
okay.
I have a hard stop at 8:30 tonight. I've got another college graduate tomorrow. It's a little busy in my house. So I don't
all right.
want to be disrespectful.
I want to make sure that you have time to take part in the next part of the discussion. I am going to excuse myself. Becca will get into the details of why and what's going on. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Have a good day now. Bye-bye.
And
All right, so I know everybody, I sent an email around. Did everybody get a chance to watch the video? I just did, yeah, okay. So everybody has some
Yes.
context here.
Yes.
So obviously there was a discussion at the board meeting about either replacing Tim as our representative and or adding an additional representative to the board. So Tim wanted the group to have the opportunity to discuss it, you know, without him here. You know, my takeaway as someone who is in the meeting is that there's a concern from a few members of the board that maybe they're worried that we might feel slighted as a committee if we don't have a member of the Board of Selectmen that is working with us directly. At least that was sort of my takeaway. So I don't know how the group feels about that. If you guys have thoughts, happy to hear them.
I don't have an issue
Well,
with the selectmen.
Go ahead, Barry.
I'm sorry, Virginia. I don't have an issue. I thoroughly enjoy working with Tim. He has been instrumental, an integral part of this journey. And I honestly can't imagine not having.
I really agree. So I listened to it. There's not one of us on this committee that's a shrinking violet. Not one of us that would be afraid to present before the Board of Selectmen. I will tell you that I have presented to the Board of Selectmen more than some of the members who are currently elected to the committee. Because when you chair a committee, you frequently go there. I just completed a training with the University of Southern Florida, and they say the best person to lead a diversity and inclusion committee is a white man. And that's number one. Number two, this was Tim's baby. I remember when he thought about it, he put some notes together, and he reached out to Fred George, my husband, and they put things together. He led the charge to have this committee, sanctioned. He did the interviewing. He brought us together. I think we need to continue the way that we are. We do not need a representative from the Board of Selectmen, period. He knows, he's been on the Board of Selectmen. He knows the rules and the guidelines and how it operates. I think we need to continue. And the last thing is, from the way the charter is set up with the town, if you are a board, a person on the Board of Selectmen is there as a liaison. For an example, when Tim was selectman, he was the liaison to the Council on Aging. But for an example, the Community Affairs, which is a committee, there's no Board of Selectmen person there. So I know I am really, when I saw the video last night, I was very upset. And it cannot happen. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry.
I agree with you 110%.
I was furious last night. If I could have gone through if I could have spoken or raised my hand, I would have. And all I could think about, there's not one of you who is shy. Lauren, you will talk to anybody and reach out, and all of us, so, oh no, Becca, cut the crap. Let's just cut the crap. We're busy. We're moving on. We don't need any stumbling blocks. I wasn't very professional. I'm sorry, but I'm emotional.
I'm with you.
Does anybody else have any thoughts or feelings on that? Okay. So my thought on this was, the board has asked for formal feedback from us for their next meeting when they're going to make a final decision about this. So I thought, we have a little bit of a time advantage here because we have another meeting before they will meet again. I thought it might be good if we could put pen to paper so that they have something to read formal that comes from this committee. Maybe there's a little bit of an educational opportunity for us here too, judging by this conversation and the comment that we saw pop up in the survey about Tim being a part of this committee. So I'm wondering if this might be, a good communication. I don't know how people, if people aren't comfortable doing that, we don't have to take that angle, but it just felt like maybe this is a good time to use our voice as a committee. So I don't know how people feel about that. No, maybe.
I'm comfortable with that.
And Becca, you're
Expressing ourselves on paper as a committee, you mean? And then is that what you're
Yeah,
doing?
Why don't we go to the committee meeting or be invited to it?
I don't necessarily think we need to. I think that, it's a public meeting. So, if you guys wanted to go to the meeting, you absolutely could. But what I thought is maybe someone, either me or anyone else who felt like putting pen to paper on this, could draft a letter, just a reply to their inquiry about where we're at, our feelings on it, the fact that we're, the ball is rolling faster than it ever has been for us. And, inserting, new members right now would probably be more of a detriment than anything, just because we are finally on track. And, we could draft the letter, we could review it, the group could review it at our next meeting. And then we could get it to the board before their June, I think their next meeting is June 14th.
Great idea.
Are people comfortable with that? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody that wants to take a stab at the letter? Otherwise, I can put something together.
I'm willing to work with anybody if somebody wants to do it. I guess I really want to make sure that I didn't hear everybody say yes, that they wanted to do this. And I don't want to push my views on, on anyone. So I mean, I don't think we need to vote, but I'm curious that maybe I didn't hear everybody, but can we at least say yes, that we agree that we want to do this, so that I don't want to push.
Yeah, I'm in agreement to at least stay with Tim, right? It's been a huge undertaking and he's taken the lead. I mean, he's been there and he's continued to do what he needs to do to be part of this committee. And he's even kept me from faltering and stayed on me for showing up and that sort. So I'm in agreement in that point too. Tim is definitely the avenue I'd like to take as well.
Thank you.
I also agree that Tim should remain on board with us and as our chair. I think that we wouldn't be where we are today without him, and so I'd like to keep that in place.
Thank you.
I think that it makes sense. I know one of the board members was talking about, the momentum that we've built. And so I think that it's important to continue that momentum. We sort of have, a feel for our meetings and, our vision. And I think Tim is a part of that. While I, sitting on the school committee, and I sort of like am putting on that hat, right? Like, okay, well, what if this happened in school committee? Like, what if I didn't get reelected, right? And like how it, not only how would I feel, or if someone else didn't get reelected, but they were already in the work, right? And I do remember an instance where there was one outgoing member who was in actually, I don't know if it was I guess you could call it an ad hoc committee. And like their work was almost done. And so, why, after being a part of this committee or task force for 2 years, are they going to pull this person out for a few months and then replace them with someone who didn't know what they were doing? And Tim knows what he's doing and he's leading well. And so I think that it does make sense for him to stay. If we had a charge of the next 3 years, maybe it wouldn't make sense, right? Because Tim is no longer a board of selectmen, but we have an end state to this. And so I do think that it's important to continue to have Tim.
Thank you. And no, we can't forget, this is his work. This is his line of business. He is a D&I professional. And anyone else?
The amount of value he has added to our work, we would not be where we are today if Tim was not part of this committee.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just to add to you guys, I agree as well. We would lose the momentum and the work that we've done so far. I agree that Tim should continue to be a part of our, should not be removed from this. Just to add, I feel like if anybody from the board feels so moved to join our committee, I feel like they should be welcome to. I don't think that we need per se an extra member who's a direct liaison, but if somebody wants to, they can join us in our work. An extra member is welcome.
That's a different perspective, and everybody is free to their perspective. I don't think we need a person from the board. I don't think that some of the people who were commenting, I didn't feel that they understood our work. And so we need to start from day one to bring them up to speed for us to continue. But anyway, that's an opinion, and we value all opinions. But it sounds like the majority, the one thing we're all 100% on is that Tim should stay. Becca, I'll help you. If anyone else want to join us, let me know.
I'm happy to help.
And I do want to just be clear, Mary, I'll make this quick. I know you gotta go. But I just want to be clear, their concern is they thought that this committee would feel slighted or held back by not having a direct liaison to the board. And so I just want to A, make sure you guys know that, and B, I mean, my thought as someone who's sitting there is I attend every diversity meeting and I attend every board of selectmen meeting. So I am always available to answer any questions, give updates. And so I, you know, not that I am the board's liaison, but like if it was like for informational purposes, we have that, like you guys have that connection through me always, and the board has that connection always. That's my job. That's why I'm here. So, you know, I just want to be clear. If we're all on the same page, I'll draft something short and sweet. I'll get it out, and we can take a look at it at the next meeting, and we'll regroup then.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becca.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion to end the meeting?
Motion to
Miriam?
adjourn.
You do? Okay. Night then.
No, we got it.
No,
No,
we gotta
we need
finish
a
right
sec-
here.
hold on.
We gotta finish
We
here.
need a second.
Yeah,
Oh,
We have
you
a
said you thought we were done.
We are done, but we still have to, we still have to
Okay.
roll call to close the
roll call
meeting.
adjournment, yeah, and all that good stuff.
Is someone second already or no?
Yeah. Shika, that's a second. All right,
Okay.
Virginia.
Adjourn. Yes.
Okay, Shika. That's an aye, it looks like.
Aye.
Okay, Mary,
Aye.
hey, Hamilton,
Aye.
Miriam,
Aye.
and Lauren.
Aye.
All right, guys, that's